Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce. And the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. And today is day number 117 of our Memorial Day celebration. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, sweetie. It's an awesomely beautiful day here in the Ozarks today, probably about 70 degrees and sunny. And we are enjoying the opportunity to serve you with MindShifters Radio and bring you the tools that we teach and support you in learning to use them and passing them on to others. What's this about a celebration of Memorial Day? Well, actually, it's kind of our way of honoring those who have been murdered or forced to murder, those who have been maimed and injured, carried those injuries back home, pain, the trauma that's gone on in our culture over war. Our way of honoring those folks is to invite you to be part of eliminating war from planet Earth. How could you possibly eliminate war from planet Earth? If we could get a small number of people to eliminate all hostility and fear from themselves, we would open the space for war to disappear from planet Earth. And so that's our invitation to you today, to pick up and do some forgiveness work today. And because we've been sold a bill of goods about forgiveness, we've been taught that, they caused all this pain inside of me. I just recently read an article on an expert from one of the big clinics in the country talking about how, sometimes people just hurt you. And I'd offer that's one of the biggest frauds on the planet. Nobody can hurt you, but, hey, if you've got hurt in there, listen, a whole cadre of people will show up to show you you're hurt. So to actually move out of the game of blaming everybody else and to move into the game of taking responsibility, and then if somebody, quote, unquote, hurts you, that is, shows you that you have hurt stored away in you, and you'll notice if you've been through a particular quality of hurt 87 different times with 42 different people, you're the only one that was there every time. That hurts about you. It's not about them. It's a trick of the mind, and the whole planet's stuck in that trick. Somebody else did it to me. Believe it or not, with forgiveness, you can go inside yourself and remove all hurt. You can go inside yourself and remove all trauma, all rage, all fear, all grief, all pain. That's our invitation to you, to become part of a team of people who are willing to move in that direction and change the dynamic of blame, projection, dissociation, rage, and fear on planet Earth. If you're not familiar with the forgiveness process, if this sounds like, whoa, what a different approach this is, what a different conversation this is, then please, I invite you to go to our website, www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that Jeanie set up that says Download Worksheets. And that Download Worksheet section is about how to use the tools that we have. The first 4 links will give you the whole story on Aramaic forgiveness. The how to change contents of your mind, how to remove hostility or fear. 4 links will give you the whole story. And once you download those links and put pen to the paper for the first time, then my request of you will be that if you have a question, if something isn't clear, if something doesn't make sense, pick up the phone and call us. Our call-in number, by the way, is 646-200-4169. So pick up the phone. Call us. Michael, something here doesn't make sense. How does this work? This is crazy. What are you talking about? Whatever your question is, I want to hear it. And I'm absolutely here to support you in learning how to change totally and completely the contents of your mind that's based in any form of hostility or fear. So we're delighted that you're with us today. That's what we're here to share with you. Please pick up the phone and call us. Jeanie, do we have any callers? Do we have anything on the in the chat room?
We do not have anybody with their hand up right now. If you're on the phone and you want to talk, please press 1. It lets me know you want to talk. Everybody's just sitting listening right now. Unless you have something else to cover, one of the things that just popped in my mind is we watched a video of Jill Bolte-Taylor, and she's the author of My Stroke of Insight. And we watched that here in the Intuitive Development Intensive yesterday, or day before yesterday, and how it talked about the right side and left side of the brain and how we linked that with what we're doing and how we're talking about getting out of the one side of the brain that controls, it's like carbon-based memory, and the other side, which is their being. Maybe address that a little bit. And that link is on our website. You can go to www.whyagain.com. That's WHYAGAIN.com. And then click on links. If you go down through the menu, click on the word links. And the Jill Bolte-Taylor, we have there's a video where she was on TED.com, and then there's also the NPR interview, which is an MP3. Both of those are on that link site. So perhaps address some of that and how that links to, the sides of the brain.
So you're thinking that there's some more discussion you want to have around that, sweetie?
Oh, I just thought it would be interesting for you to discuss with people how, she was looking at it from the neurological point of view and the so-called physical point of view of how you get out of one side of your brain into the other, and comparing that to what we teach about getting out of the carbon-based memory and into being.
Well, it was actually a very kind thing for Jill Bolte-Taylor to have had a stroke for us, because what we've been teaching for 40 years is just laid out in her experience as a neuroanatomist. She describes exactly what happened as her left brain, which you'll recall that we've been talking for 7 months now on the show, and of course I've been teaching for over 40 years, that the mind makes up the world that you see, that you're not looking at what's going on outside of you, you're looking at what's going on inside of you, and that's why we get to do the why is this happening to me again thing so easily and so often. Because until we learn to change the content of our own minds, the mind is going to keep making up the same old stories. I had a student who dropped us a piece of mail today, July 27th, 2011, Wall Street Journal. And the author of the book is a scientist named Michael Shermer. It's called The Believing Brain. And what they offer in this article, which is just, it's just coming out all over in the world of science. And a quote from it: "Beliefs come first, reasons second." That's the insightful message of the believing brain. And you've heard me before, many of you on the show have heard me before say, the world is all a story of make-believe. First you make it up, then you believe it, and then you go out to produce the documentation to show that it's true. So Shermer, and this guy is like Mr. Skeptic. He's the founder of Skeptic Magazine. Like, there's nothing that he's interested in if it is not provable by the senses. And here's this guy writing. So the review of the book says he brilliantly lays out what modern cognitive research has to tell us about his subject, namely that our brains are belief engines that naturally look for and find patterns and then infuse them with meaning. These meaningful patterns form beliefs that shape our understanding of reality. Actually, I'd take it a step further. It actually shapes our actual reality. Our brains tend to seek out information that confirms our beliefs, ignoring information that contradicts them. That's called blockage of truth. And you've heard us talk many times about blockage of truth. And the antidote for blockage of truth is love of truth. So here's Jill Bolte-Taylor, who's a neuroscientist, chugging along in her stress-filled world of medicine, where it's pretty much, medical research is pretty much a dog-eat-dog world. And she gets up one morning, and she's got a bit of a pain, a headache going on, which is unusual for her. And she gets on her exercise machine and starts looking at her hands and realizing that instead of her hands looking like her normal hands, the one she's been taught to see, all of a sudden her hands are looking more like primitive claws. Well, that's odd. A short time later, she realizes that her perceptual mind, which is a product of the left side of the brain, the rational mind, which Einstein calls a servant, that her left brain is being destroyed by a stroke. That the bleed out is knocking out one perceptual and functional faculty after another that comes from the left brain. Until she can't understand numbers. She just goes through the whole story. It's awesome. And she describes how, as this is happening, she's in bliss. Why is she in bliss? Well, we've invited you many times to imagine holding a newborn child and tapping into what the essence of the newborn child is. What's the essence of the newborn child? The essence of the newborn child is the absolute presence of love. What does Jill experience when her left brain starts to die? The absolute presence of love. She's right back to a human life. And she goes through 8 years of difficult therapy, bless her heart and her brain, to come back to being able to function in the world again. And she's back. She's working, I believe it's at Harvard now, as a neurophysiologist. And she talks about how when she starts to see the signals that her left brain is taking over, the hostilities, the fears, the overload and stress, she stops and says, not doing it, not going there. And, of course, if we've been brought up from early childhood and have a genetic pattern to live in that high stress, high hostility, high fear world, it seems like everything outside of us causes this to happen. The truth is, it's not going on outside of us, it's going on inside of us. The literal structure. She talks about how I looked at my hand and I couldn't tell where my hand started and where the air left off. Edge definition. Our left brain puts edges around things where there are no edges. I love Einstein's statement in that regard. He says, if you think you're separate or separated from the rest of humanity, you're living in an optical delusion. The optical delusion is what she describes so awesomely well in her description of her whole stroke experience and how the optical delusion broke down. Fortunately, one does not need to have a stroke in order to experience release from the left brain, from the insanity of the world of hostility and fear, and to be restored to a literal physiological experience of the active presence of love. One doesn't need to have a stroke to do that. What one does need is the tools with which to do that, with which to repeatedly collapse the firing of the brain cells that keep us in hostility or fear. Guess what that tool is called? And it doesn't matter who you're pointing your hostility or fear at. If it's at your spouse or your neighbor or your child or your parent, it doesn't matter. Whoever you're pointing it at, recognize that it's a product of what's happening in your mind, and the blame game is what inhibits you from correcting that. And so go to the website, www.whyagain.com. Right-hand side, download worksheets is the link. First 4 items, it'll tell you exactly how to start collapsing the output of the mind that creates a world that doesn't exist except between your ears. The world of hostility or fear exists nowhere except between your ears. And if it exists there because it's something you've been trained to. It's something you've bought into. It's something that your generations have bought into. Another video that we watched last night, which we've talked about before on the show, but it's awesome, is the ghost in your genes. And they're showing how genetic research is telling us that the traumas from one generation to the next, right down to the dietary habits of one generation to the next, affects the health of the next generation and the following generation. Now, that's being heralded as a new piece of information, something that's just radically different. Well, you know, it's not so new. Go back 2,000 years ago. The ancient Aramaic language, which is a physics language. It is a psychological language. It is a language of physiology, and it's a language of genetics. What did they say? The sins of the fathers will be passed into 3 and 4 generations. Whatever you do that's off the mark, and the word sin in Aramaic simply means off the mark. Whatever you do that's off the mark, you know, if you have had an angry, picky, demeaning dad or mom, then you've got lots of sensitivity and realities about when somebody just happens to look the wrong way or speak the wrong way, to believe that they're causing some pain in you around being demeaned. And the truth is, if you're in pain about that, it's yours. And once you realize that, instead of, as Shermer says, make the world up, believe it, then go out and produce the evidence, let's take responsibility. Let's start to forgive. Let's start to remove those things. We've been sold a lie. We've been sold a bill of goods. You did something terrible that caused all this pain in me, and now I'll forgive you. You know, in Greek history, we hear this story of the Trojan horse. And we've been given a Trojan horse in the Greek idea of forgiveness, letting other people off the hook because we have something going on inside of us that's painful to us. And so this forgiveness worksheet process is about how to collapse that without having to have a stroke, to collapse the garbage, the insanity in the left brain, and get back to living a human life as you were designed to do. So that's what we're here to support you in, and Jeanie tells me that we have a couple of callers, so let's hear from a caller, please.
First caller is area code 607. Who do we have, and where are you calling from?
It's Richard in Ithaca, New York.
Hi, Richard.
Hey there, young man. How do you be?
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Doing well, thank you.
I just wanted to jump in on this discussion because I first saw the Bolte-Taylor movie, I'm trying to think now how many years ago, probably right after when it first came out. And I happened to be at a conference that year, and the guest speaker that year was the guy who wrote Job's Body. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him or not, but he was talking about the myofascial system, and I'm going to try and tie this into your whole discussion about David Bohm and the idea that energy and solid things are basically just a frozen light, and that we're basically a moving hologram of the thought of God in our bodies. And basically, Jill Bolte-Taylor's revelation basically pointed to the fact that the right brain is the side from which basically we experience that feeling of love and compassion and the feeling of being one with the world. In other words, that feeling of not being separated. And that's sort of the region from which a lot of people will say that the people that say that they hear things, auditory hallucinations or whatever, or hear God speaking to them, that's the center from which that comes from. That's basically a sort of our God brain in some respects. But getting back to the myofascial system, the whole myofascial system is a system that basically, another way to think about it's our light body. The myofascial system is our light body, And when you take it then all the way back to David Bohm, the physicist who talked about frozen light, and he also spoke of our being is really a hologram of a moving hologram of the thought in God's mind. So, in getting back to the myofascial system is our light body, and the right brain is sort of the thing that brings that to our awareness. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Of course, the right brain, the science, most of science, though they know there's this phenomenally wide range of frequencies, like to limit their understanding to the 5 frequencies that we have senses for: taste, touch, smell, hearing, and sight, which of course is ludicrous and ridiculous. We certainly go far beyond that, and when you look at it, I think correctly, what you find is that the right brain is an instrument of the being that we are. When we're attuned to that instrument, it's the place where our spiritual faculties express. They don't source there; they express there. And the left brain, in the same sense, is the instrument of carbon-based memory. Things don't source there; they source from the accumulated data, hostilities and fears, etc., and wonderful things too that come from the generations. However, the tendency is over time for the insane things to overpower the wonderful things, because there's such a focus for so many people, especially in our world today, on that hostility and fear-based mind. And so to me, the bottom line is, the key to the whole thing is, what can I do today to clean out the hostility and fear from my carbon-based memory, from my left brain, from my myofascial system, that interferes with the movement of light through me? And on a practical level, it's all about getting down to how to do that and actually doing it. So, I hear you.
Yeah, I agree with you totally there. And basically, I just wanted to say that also the right brain is sort of our intuitive side of our brain as well.
It's the instrument of intuition. Exactly. It's the instrument of all of the spiritual faculties.
Right.
And in the ancient stories, it's symbolized by David and his 5 smooth stones. That's where our spiritual faculties express, and one of them, of course, is intuition. So I'm in full agreement with you, sir. I appreciate your call.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a blessed one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jeanie, you've got another caller?
Yes, area code 510. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi, I'm from Emeryville, California. I just wanted to know something. I'm going to kind of go off the tangent here, because I see you on see a lot of channels on Blog Talk Radio, if you don't mind me asking.
Go for it. What's your name?
I just want to know, do you need a real studio to have one of these shows, or what?
Well, if you just go to blogtalkradio.com, they've got a whole section that tells you all about. We do our show. I've done it before driving down the road. I do it from my cell phone. So we're on cell phones right now. There's a studio control panel that Jeanie's on in the computer. That's why there are 2 of us doing this. That she's in there and kicks in with her ideas and her things. But what she's doing right now is, like, for instance, when you put your hand up, there's a control panel, and she pushes the button that puts you in the queue to get on the phone and speak to us. So, but if you just contact the Blog Talk folks, they'll tell you all about it. It's very reasonable. It's an awesome tool. Awesome tool.
Okay, I have another question about that story.
As long as you have a phone and the internet.
Okay, I have another question about that story. You said that woman who had thought her hands were her hands were like a monster or something. Yep.
Jill Bolte-Taylor. If you go to NPR.com and you Google Jill Bolte-Taylor, there's an interview by Terry Gross that's awesome.
If you go to our website and just go to our website and click on links.
Oh, so this was but like you were saying though, was like it was as a result of a stroke, because I know a couple of family members of mine had strokes and they never kind of had that kind of vision thing.
It depends. That's why I was thanking her for having the kindness to have it in the left lobe of the brain. People who have a right brain stroke, there are different effects, but when her left brain was hit by that stroke, that's where her normal, what we call the normal perceptual world that we think is out there, all of a sudden started to break down, and she could see what was really there. And what was really there doesn't look anything like what our left brain shows us. There's a whole different world going on. We've been tricked. And the idea is that if you're in any form of hostility or fear, then you're in a left brain hallucination. And forgiveness is how to recover from those left brain hallucinations and come back to the real world where you get to experience your human life. If you've ever held a newborn child, you know what the awesome presence of love is in that newborn. And so our basic thesis is that's what we humans are designed for. Anything other than that is a left brain hallucination. And in the ancient Aramaic language, the word forgive is the tool with which you break down those hallucinations. Her hallucinations broke down because of the destruction of her left brain through a stroke. But as I'm saying, you fortunately don't have to have a left brain stroke in order to break down that insane world of hostility, fear, grief, rage, sadness, hatred, hurt, and pain. If you begin to use the forgiveness tools that we teach, those things will simply begin to disappear from your life. And that's what we're heading toward. That's what our show is about, is to support people in using those tools. If you go to our website, www.whyagain.com, under links, you'll see the link to Jill Bolte-Taylor, both a video and an audio. And if you click on about the fifth or sixth link down is download worksheets, it will explain and walk you through the whole forgiveness process, how to start to escape from the left brain hallucination that has most people in the world trapped today.
Okay, thank you for taking my call.
All right. Bye. Thanks for your call. Okay, have a blessed one. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Jeanie.
That's all we have right at the moment.
Okay. Awesome. Well, as I started to speak about the ghosts in your genes, the amazing video, which you can watch free online. I don't know, have you got the link to that one on the site, sweetie?
Yes, I do. If you go to our website and click on links, it's out there.
Okay. So under links, you'll find a link you can watch free, this video, The Ghosts in Your Genes. And the geneticists are starting to realize this multi-generational thing that happens called hostility and fear, called pain, called trauma, called disease, that is literally passed from generation to generation. And our cause, if you want to call it so here, with this work, is to support people in moving out of that whole process and waking up. One of the things, yesterday I read on the show the quote from Arthur Schopenhauer back in the 1800s, German philosopher, and he was describing about how truth is accepted and such. And it's actually really a good demonstration of how the left brain mind works. The left brain, or the product of the function of the left brain, when something comes along that doesn't fit into its paradigm, into its BS, that's belief system, by the way, when something comes along that doesn't fit in its paradigm, then it's ridiculed, and that's one of the biggest things that the left brain does. That's all an hallucinogenic trip when we decide to ridicule someone. So Schopenhauer says, first, truth is ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. And finally, it's accepted as self-evidence. And so, first, we've got the ridicule of a new way of thinking and a new way of being. And then there are those who will violently oppose it because it doesn't support the money that's going into their pockets. And then finally, as enough people come to experience it, as we get to critical mass, we will see that it will become self-evident. People go, well, obviously, of course that's true. And, I think back 40 years ago when I was saying these things and teaching this work, people looked at me as if I was some kind of a wacko. And today, very, very rarely do I get anybody who's like, I have no interest in hearing your conversation. Occasionally we get that. But by and large, it's like, well, I don't agree with you, but tell me that again. What was that you said? And there's this opening that happens when you start to logically prove, and fortunately we do have science behind us now, when you can logically prove that the left brain is an hallucinogenic device that keeps us locked in craziness. And what each individual has to do in order to heal is to create a laboratory in their own lives and honor their personal experience and the discoveries that are made by the willingness to change their worldview. When something appears that does not fit what you currently think and know, you're going to have to start to shift and change. Most of what you rationally know out of your left brain is a fantasy, especially if you're pointing your finger at somebody else and blaming them. It's an hallucination. Now, don't believe me. The only thing I invite you to do is just to allow your imagination to run for a minute and go, well, what would it be like if I realized that all 87 times I've been through this particular upset, with all 42 different people, I was the only one that was there. What if I could actually change that state in my brain and in my life, and in those same situations, instead of being enraged and fear, I could actually step into a space of love and connectedness. What would life be like? Now, I'm not inviting you to believe anything. All I'm inviting you is to put the pen to the paper and begin to forgive. And what will happen is you will crash, just like happened with Joe Bolte-Taylor, everything based in hostility or fear, and realize what a fraud it is. And you'll get to the point where you refuse the stresses created by that world of hostility or fear. And as you discover that, your own left brain, the truth of that, your own left brain, will tend to go through those three phases that Schopenhauer talks about. You'll ridicule yourself. You'll tell other people what you've discovered, and other people will ridicule you and think you are so nuts. And then the people who've been able to control you through your hostility or fear, they are going to be so peeved. And they will, second stage that Schopenhauer talks about, they will violently oppose what you have to say. And then, finally, as you continue on your journey and demonstrate the truth of what you're experiencing, and they see the awesome change, and they go, geez, what happened? If this had occurred to you yesterday, you'd have been in terror, trauma, rage, fear. What happened? Then they'll begin to open to your explanation of what's happened and how you did it. And how you do it is through forgiveness. Nothing to do with letting others off the hook. It's how you change what's going on in yourself. And there'll come a point where it's going to start to move into the obvious category that Schopenhauer talked about. So that's what we're here to support people in doing. And Jeanie, do we have any questions in the chat room or anybody on the line that has their hand up?
No, we had one person in the chat room asking something off the wall, but they're just trying to pull a chain, I think. So nothing serious. And everybody on the phone is just listening. If you are on the switchboard and you want to talk to Michael, please press 1. That gives me the signal that you want to speak. Otherwise, you're just there listening, and that's perfectly fine. But we would love questions. So give us a call. Our phone number is 646-200-4169.
So my invitation to each of you is to recognize that you have the qualifications to become the investigator, the scientist in your life. And through your direct, though you won't necessarily be able to speak it all or explain it, experience, you will, in the true scientific sense, experience a knowledge that the world will not comprehend until we get to that stage of it becomes obvious. And we're seeing more and more information all the time. There's another fabulous film out there, if you can find a copy of it. It's called Saved by the Light. True story. A man who was a hired government killer. He loved his job. always been a pretty nasty kind of guy. And he has a lightning strike kill him. He's dead for I don't even know how long. They almost wheeled him into the morgue. And he was resuscitated, and in his experience, he was shown a whole different game. Basically, the same as Joe Bolte-Taylor. His world of hostility or fear collapsed. Left brain, dead. Collapse. It shuts up. Now, the world calls that a near-death experience, and as usual, the world has it all backward. Daniel Brinkley did not have a near-death experience. He had a near-life experience, and in that near-life experience, when his left brain was dead, was shut up, all of a sudden he's shown there's a whole different world. And he's told that he is a powerful spiritual being and that love makes the difference. This guy's lived his whole life in hostility and rage and, irritation. The movie does an awesome job of demonstrating him coming back and how he has to struggle with his new awareness while his left brain has been resuscitated, his body's been resuscitated, he's been clinically dead but come back to life, and how he has to struggle with understanding. Now, guess what Daniel Brinkley does today? I run into him every once in a while on the circuit, in the speaker circuit, and what Daniel does primarily is set up hospice centers in VA facilities for men and women who have virtually no possibility of recovery from the pain, the rage, and the fear that they've experienced in their worlds, the insanity of the war they've been forced to go through. And he sits with them and holds their hand and processes them into love as they're dying. That's what Daniel does in the world. He's set up hospice centers all over the country. Awesome, awesome shift. Awesome young man. It's just fabulous. And Saved by the Light, it gives you a great visual. The story's very well done. I acknowledge Daniel for allowing, it shows him as a pretty rough character as a kid, pretty tough, and pretty nasty. And I acknowledge Daniel for being brave enough to let that, be the story that's out there. But the shift that takes place is so awesome. You don't have to wait for a near-life experience. You don't have to wait for clinical death for the thing to shut up. You can pick up the tools and on a regular daily basis. And this isn't something you go, I know how to forgive, and then you go on and forget about it. It's something you do on a regular daily basis to remove what never belonged. And you remove what never belonged, you get to a whole different experience. You get to experience a human life. What Daniel experienced when he had his clinical death experience, what Jill Bolte-Taylor experienced when she had her left brain shut down from a stroke. You can purposely, consciously bring about that same experience through the work of forgiveness.
We have a caller.
Say again, sweetie?
We have a caller.
Awesome. Let's talk to them.
Area code 517. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi, Jeanie and Michael. It's Rex.
Well,
hi, Rex.
Nice to hear from you.
How's it going?
It's rocking. We're moving forward.
Yeah,
great
show.
The last day we finish our intuitive development intensive tomorrow, and it's really hectic. I don't know whether I shared with you that David Hayes, who's the property manager here, woke up on. By the way, I didn't mention, but his son's funeral's today. So if we just hold the space there, they're just finishing the funeral service. But in any event, he woke up on Sunday morning to a phone call that his 37-year-old son had died, and so he's in Louisville working with and just working through all the stuff that's coming up for him. And in the funeral yesterday, there were about 600 visitors, and he's just very courageously holding the space of healing for the whole community. So it's been a little bit hectic here. Been a little bit hectic here, and we finish our last day of the intensive tomorrow. I did get your message earlier. So do you have a thought for us?
Yeah, I got your sure. Thank you.
By the way, I got a note.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I got a note today from John Addis, who was at your Y workshop
Uh-huh.
on Saturday. And,
Yes.
quote, here's what he says. He said, had a chance to sit in on the Y workshop put on by Rex Bauer. He did a great job, almost as good as you. Rex, now that, that's not, you're not supposed to, yes, you are. Please surpass me by 1,000%. So, acknowledgement, Rex.
It went well. I enjoyed the workshop. We had a small group, which is perfect. It's just the number that needs to be there. And, I was deeply honored by John. He looked at me in the first break when he was there in the early part, and he said, you really know this material. And I went, well, that was a compliment. It wasn't as much as, preparing or being able to share it, but it's that he would recognize that I feel it and know it and live it in my life. And that was a huge compliment, so I appreciated that a lot. What I wanted to share with you, pardon me?
It's not always been that way for you.
Pardon me?
I say definitely a compliment, especially as that has not always been his perception of you.
Yeah, we've had some challenges, which you know what challenges are. Yeah. So it was.
Your thought?
Say again.
I say your thought.
Well, my thought was, Michael, I in my private work, when I'm working with clients, I very much encourage the Y material and using the forgiveness process. And one of the gifts that I have and that I'm able to utilize is the ability to feel, what's been called clairsentience. I don't see it as an extrasensory type thing. I think it's something we all have, but everyone has a different way of interpreting it, and experiencing it. Well, my way is I have a tendency to be able to feel what other people feel, and I'm able to help them identify those feelings, and it really, accelerates the healing process. And one of the things I've noticed repeatedly, and I was thinking of this as you were describing what you were describing with the left brain, right brain, and Joe Bolte's experience, which is really, really exciting, and the understanding of being able to shut down that part of herself, not really shut it down, but just realize that it's not what's in charge. And when I'm working with a client, I just take them through the exercise, and I say, okay, I hear this constant input of, and I feel this constant input of emotional verbiage, emotional experiential, consciousness. And that's what I help them filter through and tap through, and with different tools and such. Well, what I've noticed is that when they get to the place where they cancel their goal, and as we share, it clears the 9-bit mind, what happens on a feeling level is stillness. And what I encourage people to recognize is that stillness, and the reason it's so effective to, activate Ruka in that moment, from my perception, is that that's when the mind is still, the consciousness is still, and now that elemental force inside can really go to work. And
exactly.
And that's what I feel, and I thought it'd be nice to be able to hear that from another perspective on an experiential level, because that's what I share with my clients, because it helps them recognize that shift. And then when they invite Ruka, I've seen visuals of energy leaving. I see, or integrating, whatever you want to call it. I get a feeling of just a release of whatever they might have been holding on to in that moment. I don't necessarily care what it is, honestly. But as it's clearing, and then after that, quite often it's just another point of stillness. And it's beautiful how you've choreographed it, and I appreciate you so much, and I love listening to you talk, you know that. But be able to reestablish that goal in that clear space. And it's without all the verbiage, and what I was sharing is identifying it from the left brain. It's without all the verbiage of the evidential mind. And it reinforces the connection, my language would be, it reinforces the connection to our divine qualities and to what is considered to be more real. And I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, awesome. I think you're right on. My experience in working with people and developing that worksheet over the years is that what happens is that moment at which the output of the left brain collapses, it shuts up for a minute, and people get, and sometimes it's just a fraction of a second, they get a direct experience of being, of their human lives.
Absolutely.
For just a little piece of time, they go back to who they are. And, of course, usually the left brain just jumps right back in. I mean, that thing is pretty fast. But each time one uses the worksheet, they go back to a direct experience of that newborn state, the human life that we are. And as they use the process on a regular daily basis, they get longer and longer and longer periods of that direct experience of being until they go, you know something, I'm not interested in that other stuff anymore. It's like enough is enough already. I'm ready to let go of the hostility, the fear, the grief, and just live as this awesome presence of love that I'm designed to live, to really appreciate our human lives.
I concur. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great
awesome.
job. You bet.
All right, my friend. Delight to hear from you. I will talk to you a little later today about your son.
Sounds fantastic, Michael. Love you both.
All right. Blessings. Tell Mama we say hello.
I will do that.
All right. By the way, for those who don't know Rex, it's Rex Montague Bauer, who's a teacher of the Y work in Lansing, Michigan. He and his wife, Mitzi, have been involved in the work for, about 25, 26 years. And so we are delighted you did that Y workshop this weekend and delighted on the feedback for it. It's fabulous. And by the way, anybody whose work it is, our commitment with this work, one of the reasons we do this radio show every day is our commitment is to take this to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. Literally every mind, heart, and being on the planet. We're not going to do that by ourselves. If this is your work to do, please pick it up and start to do it. Together we can change this whole game of insanity, of this left brain world that we're forced into by our educational systems, by our whole culture, and come back to the experience of being human beings and functioning as human beings. So the science of it, as you set up your own direct experiments to prove or disprove what we're speaking about, you become that investigator. And I'd offer that if your search is integritous for the truth, there is no superior on planet Earth to you. And one of the games of the left brain is I'm superior, I'm better than everybody. You know, the person in their hostility or fear who cuts somebody else's head off in order to appear a head taller, they've always got a nasty word for everybody. Why? It's because of their insecurity. It's because the root of their own self-image is their insecurity and their fear. And so they continuously cut off somebody else's head. But once you step out of that left brain state and move into your true being, you are the scientist supreme at having the experience of moving out of a genetic history, out of a family system of hostility or fear, back into a family system of being, back into a family system of love. And rather than holding a secret over others for power, that superiority game, they'll simply give up their weak truths and move into the whole new paradigm. And the whole new paradigm is we human beings are made of this stuff called love. Let's stop this other garbage. Let's move forward. What area of your life do you need support in moving forward? What area of your life do you have this secret part of you that you keep hidden away that's making plans based in your hostility and fear in order to be safe, in order to be secure, in order to get what you want? Notice in that hostility and fear how contradictory that is to your higher being and its guidance. And when you made the commitment to move in the direction of something higher, Notice that everything unlike the higher state that you were aiming for has to come up to be healed. But if you get caught in that trap of blaming somebody else because that stuff is in you, then what will happen is you'll tend to throw away your higher guidance, and you'll tend to just go along with the old hostility fear game and create your plan based in your hostility and fear and keep it all secret and hidden away and not allow it to be exposed to the light. Your higher guidance will tell you what your life is really about. Your lower self will have all kinds of objections and all kinds of stories that it will blame on everybody that's available. And it's just time for us as human beings to work through all of that and to come to a full experience of what we humans are designed to function as. And as you move into that search, you decide to set up your own experiments, become your own scientist. We're here to support you and guide you. You don't have to make the whole thing up again. We're here to support you. And if hostility or fear comes in, then you know that there's another level and another layer of work to do. If you live in love of truth and you live the outrageously successful life that you're hardwired to live, to create, you'll find that this game is such an awesome one. But if your left brain contains something else, you're not going to be able to see that. I support each and every one of you in settling only for the awesome life that you were designed to live. Jeanie, do we have any questions, callers, thoughts, answers?
No, everybody's just out there listening. There's no questions up.
Okay.
Oh, we just had a hand go up, and I think that it's
awesome.
David. David?
Hey, David, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Michael. Thank you. I'm outside, so there may be some traffic noise. I just walked out of the building. Everything is completed as far as the funeral ceremony. And I was listening to what you were talking about and the letting go and the family roots and the heritage. And just to let people know, the entire church was filled. It was just amazing, the people that were there, and we're doing a little gathering now. And I wanted to come out and touch base with everyone. Thank everyone for all of their support. That I think it went very well as it possibly go. It certainly was in alignment with the principles that you're teaching here and what forgiveness is really about. And I think that there were a lot of people that benefited from that. So we'll see where it goes from here. And once again, just thank you to everyone for, hey, yeah, right in there, Fred. Beg your pardon, someone just pulled up past me some direction. Actually, this was Ryan. It's one of Ryan's closest friends. It's kind of amazing to be part of this group because literally most of the people would say Ryan and I were best friends. Ryan and I was my best friend. Ryan, and it's just amazing of what my son was able to do and to bring to this planet. And as you were speaking about the healing and letting go, that was his thing, was to hold the space for people and to point it out for them. And my assessment of it all is that he absorbed too much of all of that negative energy, the hostility and the rage and fear, and in the process of him taking and releasing a little of it and taking on more of it, I think it just got to the place of overwhelm for him. And I see him now I see the work that he has done. It's just really, really been so impressive, so incredible. I mean, you're gonna love this one piece, Michael. How much time do we have? Do we have enough time to tell you one little quick story?
We've got about 4 minutes.
Okay. So here was an example of people shifting and making a change. Maybe I shouldn't even say this on the radio, for this involves one of the actions of the priest that was here. But my son was cremated, and it's okay to take the ashes in for the ceremony if there's a burial spot for him. There is no burial spot for him. We plan to spread ashes at different places, and that's against the code, so to speak, or the ideas, the principles, which is fine. And this priest said, I mean, it was me and this other church authority, and he said, bring him in. Just bring him in. And I saw that as such a major breakthrough. That's my take of it. I thought that was just incredible for him to passionately to see where things were at and to tap into his true essence and make an allowance for that. Anyway, so there were a lot of things that were going on, and they still are continuing to go on. So that's what I have right now.
Well, David, everybody in the listening audience have been continuously embracing you in our hearts, in our minds, and in our love. And we're still there with you and for you, and everyone that's gathered, holding the space for the opening for the healing of the community pain. We're absolutely here to support you in it.
I absolutely got that, and as I said before, without that happening, without that support, I would have never made it. I know I wouldn't have. There were just too many moments to shift into hostility or fear or the guilt and fault and blame. It was just too many. You know, it's coming from everywhere. And without your all support, it would have never happened. It would never have happened. I know that. So thank you all. Thank all the audience. Thank you, audience, and Tim and Jeanie and Marie and Ray and Julie for all of your all's just incredible willingness, level of willingness. So I need to get in here now. Go ahead. What was that?
Absolutely here for you and honored to be sharing the planet with you.
And I as well. So thank you all very much. And I do need to go back in right now, and I think the show's just about over. Huh? Okay.
Thank you for sharing that story with us.
You're welcome. Love you guys.
Okay, we love you. Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye. And for those who may be new to the show, David is the center manager here at Heartland, and he had the news on Sunday that his 37-year-old son had died. So he's in Louisville. That's where he was calling from. They just completed the funeral. And so we just embrace him. And yesterday at the funeral home, he shared that there were about 600 people who showed up. His son was a mortgage broker and very well known in the city. So there were a lot of people there and a lot of pain. And David, even through his pain, was the one who was standing holding this space along with others to bring healing to that whole community and healing to the dynamics that's leading to so many young people dying so prematurely. And as you use these tools, what we do is we create the best year yet of our eternal life, and we're here to support you in that. Blessings. Bring somebody to share with you. Stranger on Monday.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.ryceandjeanie.com. whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.